And welcome to Habs Unfiltered, episode 152, the Ole 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 episode. I'm your host, Blaine Putney, and I'm joined now by my co-host, Treg Wilson.
Good evening.
And Matt Smith.
Good evening.
So, the Canadiens were supposed to have been swept in 3 games and then surrender for the 4th, have now turned this shit around and turned it into a 7-game series, as somebody here had predicted.
You did. You and Eric Engels, I think, are the only people in the history of predictions this year that predicted 7 games.
Yes. So the Canadiens have turned it into a 1-game playoff where anything can happen. So we'll talk about Game 6, the ups, the downs, the lack of ice time for certain players for some unknown reason. Maybe the possibility we see Romanov for Game 7. Yeah, probably not. Anyway, so, all right. Baby Gap, Treg, what did you see in that first period that you enjoyed?
Just the intensity of the Canadians, man. They controlled the play. They did everything but put the puck in the net. I thought they played great in the first period. I thought it was one of their better periods in the playoffs. They just kept rolling the lines and putting it to it. Ducharme made good decisions on his line changes and his matchups. And Habs did everything right except – but I'll give credit where credit's due. Campbell played a good game. Campbell made some big stops. So
yeah, he made some really nice saves in the first period.
And that's what I seen in the first period. I seen exactly what I wanted to see, except the goals.
I was pushing when the Canadiens were down 3-1. I was really pushing it so that they can win a game, just to have a game in front of the fans for Game 6. They did that. They won in overtime in Game 5 to make this game happen. And of course, people out of Ontario were saying, having fans there, that's not a big deal. No, whatever. But when you've gone 480 some odd days, almost 15 months without fans in a stadium, the first game with actual fans in Canada for a hockey game in Montreal, in a playoff game against the storied rival, you know that those fans, even though there's only 2,500, are going to be crazy loud. And it seemed to really push the Canadiens. They came out flying. So Matt, what about you? What did you think of that first period?
I was saying the same thing as Treg. I think they came out flying, and I think they really used the fans to their advantage. As you said, there was 2,500 people there, most of them being Habs fans. As we saw, there were quite a few Leafs fans, which would have been the same thing as if it would have been in Toronto. You would have saw your handful of Montreal fans. I think they controlled the majority of the play. I think they were hard on the puck. They were getting pucks on net. They were hard on the penalty kill as well, especially early on. And I really think that personally, I thought that they had a fantastic period, and that could roll over to the rest of the game. Big contributions from guys like Evans early on in the game.
See, now I wanted to talk about Evans a little bit. He took over Tatar's spot on that line with Gallagher and Danault. And in the first 2 periods, that line was just flying. Danault, up to the second intermission, had about a 68% face-off rate. And it was, and even though they didn't get any goals, they did extremely well in shutting down the Leafs' top offensive weapons. Matthews and Marner were kept silent all night. They threw Nylander on that line, trying to outmatch the Canadiens on there, but they couldn't. And I think it has a lot to do with the energy and speed that Evans brought to that line.
The only player that played more than Evans was Danault.
Yeah.
That's saying something.
And Tatar wasn't bringing that kind of energy. He was very lethargic, I guess. I mean, he was sitting back a lot. Evans was pushing the play. He was using his foot speed. He's a very smart player, even though he's a rookie. He knows where he needs to go. He knows what he needs to do. And he did it. He brought the energy they needed, and it paid off for that line tonight.
Yeah, Evans was night and day for what Tatar was bringing to that line. That line still didn't score, but at least they were creating offense and creating chances. Actually, Deneau almost scored the first goal of the game, but Campbell came up big on a nice save.
Yeah, and then Stahl got robbed. Campbell with the 2-pad stack. You know, you can hate the Leafs all you want, but that effort by Campbell tonight, you have to give him credit. He was excellent.
He did play a good game, and I'm gonna see if I watched the interview later on to see if he takes the blame for it like he usually does. He definitely shouldn't. He definitely played a hard game tonight, and it definitely wasn't on him.
Well, we've covered enough of the Leafs in this show. I mean, Sportsnet does enough of it for them. If you were watching Sportsnet, you could be excused for not understanding that there were a second team in this game, because all they did was just they revved up that leaf blower and they were giving Matthews everything they could. They stretching. Oh my God. They had to go and find something he was leading his team in. And apparently it was blocked shots at 2.
Tied with Deneau.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd be leading that anymore. I think the Leafs D was blocking a lot of shots. I think both sides were. Perry took a couple off the hand, and Schrott made a couple good blocks.
Yeah. Perry was a gamer tonight. Scoring that first goal on the power play, and we're going to get into the power play here in a little bit, but scoring that first goal on the power play, blocked a shot with his hand twice. You saw him on the bench. He had that thing wrapped up with ice in between shifts. Like, the guy was a warrior in this game. This is where the experience of bringing in cup winners started to pay off.
That's why they brought him in for moments like this.
Now,
I think that line has been playing well this whole series. That Perry, Stahl, and Armia now was Anderson to start. Yeah. But I think they've been playing well considering what they're out there for.
Or they're there to eat up some minutes and kind of play heavy hockey. And the Canadians tonight played heavy hockey. They finished all their checks. They were on the forecheck hard, using their speed. Finished the check on the forecheck. You can see that the defenders were rushing their plays. In the first 2 periods, they would rush plays to reverse it the other way to try and avoid getting hit. The Canadians were reading it well. They did not capitalize in those 2 first periods. The Canadians could have easily, after having they had an expected goals for of around 75 in the first 2 periods. They should have been up 4-0. If you have numbers like that, you should be leading by a few goals. But Campbell kept them in. Now, let's talk about the special teams. The Canadian special teams tonight showed up. The penalty kill was perfect. It killed off some hard penalties. That puck over the glass one, that's normally, like you said, Matt, that's a backbreaker, but they killed that off. They killed off the slashes and the random trips submitted into a game. But it's the power play.
The holding the stick even though you were hooked.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was Matthews' stick, so you're not allowed to touch that. But it's the power play. Up until tonight, the Canadians' penalty kill was outscoring their power play. But tonight, the power play led the way. See, as we mentioned in our last episode with Lyle Richardson, the power play is not why they've been losing. But it could be it could be the tool to help you win. And tonight, it was. Scoring 2 goals. Perry's first goal, and Toffoli with the second goal, his first of the playoffs. Now, I want to hear what you guys have to think about that. Matt, what about you? What did you see in the power play that you felt it was improved?
I think having people in the stands, I think 20, it took about 2,500 people for the power play to get better. It just seems like that first one was a little bit of a flop, and it was kind of like, here we go, let's just defer as many of these penalties as we can. But then they had a little bit more opportunity. They were moving the puck a lot better. They weren't predictable. It wasn't just let's get it to the same guy that shoots every time and shoot the puck. They were crashing the net. They were looking for rebounds. There was a few quick whistles as we noticed throughout the game,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was really all about effort level, especially on the Perry goal. And I think they got a little bit. I think they got a little bit lucky with that coach's challenge by the Leafs brass. I honestly don't think that they had a chance of getting that. And if Campbell would have shown some effort, I think really that he thought the puck was under his skate or under his pad or something, and that's why maybe he didn't get up in time. If he would have even tried to slide over at all and make any contact with Toffoli, that play would have got blown back. It would have came back for sure, but he didn't. But he did, and I'm very happy that the ref saw it that way as well. And soon after, Marner takes a puck over glass as well, and Toffoli gets his first of the playoffs, assisted by Suzuki, and Petrie picks up a point, which is in 6 games the first point by a Canadiens defenseman. We brought that up in the last show, that the Canadiens D had to come to play, and I know we're going to get into this later on, but this was a big game for the Canadiens defense.
Yeah, that goal challenged by the Leafs, I think it challenges the one the Canadiens made earlier in the series as being one of the dumbest challenges you've ever seen.
Well, when you get 10 minutes to make a challenge, you can see it at every angle, and then make sure you want to make. I mean, that was the longest I've ever seen them wait.
That was a little much. It was
for someone to do a challenge.
Yeah.
Well, they had to make sure to get to the bench, and they're like, "You sure you don't want to ask anything?" I mean, we're gonna have Toronto review it anyway because we don't want Toronto to lose because of Toronto. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what?
It was
personally,
a dumb plan to challenge that one.
You know what? Toffoli, I think it was Toffoli, was in the crease.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
And you know what? I was thinking this is going to be called back simply because Toffoli's in the crease. I agree. Should never have been goalie interference. Toffoli, yes, he went into the crease with the defenseman, but then the defenseman held him in the crease, and Campbell didn't even make any effort to try to get back.
All Campbell had to do is try to sprawl, push. He just literally had to touch him and be like, I was reaching for the puck, or I was trying to get into the play.
And that would have been called right back.
100%.
Yeah. But
he didn't.
No. And the second goal in the power play, just to go back to what we were talking about, the power play, I thought it was good movement by the puck. They didn't, like Matt, you said, they changed it up a bit. They weren't just perimeter passing. And finally, Suzuki got it to Foley, and he took a good shot and put it in the net. Like, they started actually shooting, and they were putting players in front of the net. That's how you get that scramble in front of Campbell for the first one. And that's what they got to start doing.
Well, up until the overtime, the Canadiens led the game in high danger chances in the slot. They were leading, it was 11-7 before the overtime. And then overtime happened, and the Leafs caught up in that aspect. But but the power play was a weapon tonight. And then it put Toronto on its heels a little bit, but not for too long, because, they got a couple of lucky bounces to tie the game up. But they got those lucky bounces because they were going to the net. They were pushing the play. And the Canadiens let themselves get bottled in a little bit because they sat back on the lead. And by going to the net, just putting pucks on net, good things happen. And that's how they got their 2 goals.
Yeah, I was kind of clock watching, and I was clock watching because I was thinking, all right, when are the Leafs going to pull Campbell? We're up 2-0. I suspect around the 3-minute mark is when they're going to start thinking about 3-4, maybe even 3-minute mark. I think is the best mark. So I was expecting the Canadiens to start settling back around the 5-minute mark. Like sit back. All right, they're going to pull the goalie anytime now. We'll tighten up defensively, and then basically we'll just ice the puck until we put it in the net or whatever. But instead, they pretty much scored the second goal. They had one good shift afterwards where they were in the zone for a bit, and then they just all backed up to the red line every time Toronto got the puck and allowed Toronto to come in and do their thing.
They collapsed too early, too quick, and they had nobody to put an outlet pass to.
Yeah, and they were not they weren't challenging Toronto in the zone entries. Toronto had a very easy time getting into the Canadian zone.
And
that's what happens when you play safe. That's what happens when you collapse.
And they left
you're allowing them to come in.
Yeah, and they left the points wide open, and that's what led to the first. That's what led to the second goal.
Yeah, and then also a terrible no look backhand pass led to the second goal as well on the boards. But
true.
I don't care. I hate that pass.
But the Canadians sitting back and letting things happen, not challenging Toronto. What gave them success up to that point was pushing the pace, going at Toronto, attacking their defense, especially a defense that was missing Muzzin after the middle of the second. Throw pucks into their feet, go right at them. That was the success for the Canadians up till about the 10-minute mark of the third. Then they stopped. And Toronto came back in because they weren't being challenged. And that's an issue. Also, Ducharme shortened his bench on the blue line. You'll notice that
very much so.
That Gustafsson and Kulak did not touch the ice very much at all, if at all, in the third, and not at all in the overtime, with Kulak getting 6:18 and Gustafsson getting 6:32. Is it 6:32? Yeah, 6:39 of ice time in that game total, in an overtime game. Not even 7 minutes each. You've got guys like Sherratt doing 34-30, Edmondson at 28-37, Weber at 36-16. I mean, when you're relying on the older, less mobile guys, teams like Toronto are going to start to feast on you, and they were really pushing the play. And they controlled the play once Ducharme shortened that blue line.
I don't mind that. I didn't mind him doing that. I just felt you should have waited. Sitting Kulak when you need goals, I don't think it's the right thing to do. Same with Gustafsson, really, if you think of it. Gustafsson's a offensive defenseman. But I at least would have waited till shorten the bench to at least the way they shortened it to put your big stay-at-home guys out till after I had the 2-0 lead. So, I mean, a third pair D usually gets, 13 to 15 minutes a game?
In an overtime game that goes to about the end of the first overtime, maybe you'll get 20.
Maybe, yeah. But 6 minutes is under 7 minutes, just ridiculous for a third.
You're telling me that Romanov can't do that?
Listen, if Romanov will not be in Game 7, I'm not even going to debate this. I'm not going to discuss it. He will not be in Game 7. I think they're going to go back to Kulak and Merrill, and you're going to see Gustafsson.
Merrill's injured.
Merrill's hurt. So you'll stick with Kulak and Gustafsson, which to me is stupid. But I'm not the coach.
If you're only giving them less than 7 minutes ice time each.
Yeah, you may as well put Tatar in.
I don't think that was the plan.
Honestly.
I don't think the plan was to only give him 7 minutes, but the way the game went, anyway,
still 7 minutes. 7.
I would at least I could see Gustafsson getting 7 minutes, but I could see Kulak, kind of rotating in with the guys to give him a little bit of a rest. So I can see Kulak getting about 15 minutes at least, and maybe Gustafsson 8. But
the thing is, like we talked about the power play and how it did, Gustafsson didn't do anything to improve that. And the one chance that the Leafs had early on in the game on the Canadiens power play shorthanded, it was Gustafsson that was back. And thank God Suzuki was there, or it might have went in the net.
Man, Suzuki's back checking was on par tonight. He back checked a few times that helped maybe take away a scoring chance from the Leafs.
Yeah. But I completely agree with Blaine. I really think that if you're going to give the guy 6 minutes, put Romanov into the game. Put him in. Like, what's there to lose? We look at the last two games. You have Suzuki scoring an overtime winner, assisted by Caulfield. Now you got Kotkaniemi tonight. You know, this is the youth movement that we've been talking about and everyone's been talking about for the longest time. You take Romanov, you put him into that game. He got a guy that just hits anything that moves and he does it clean. You know, put him into the game, give him those, 10 minutes or less, and you will not be disappointed.
I mean, put him in game 7 now. You're either going to look like a genius. Well, you're not going to look like a genius because you waited too long to put him in, but you're going to put him in and either he's going to play a big game and help you win the game or he's not.
Yeah.
And even if he doesn't play a big game, he's not going to lose you the game.
No.
No more than what Gustafsson would do.
That's right.
Right. So,
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know even why we're debating. It's not happening. So,
Yeah.
Because it's just so asinine.
That's right.
It is ridiculous to play 2 defensemen less than 7 minutes each in a friggin' overtime game while you have your top defensive prospect, who's a rookie, sitting in the stands watching the game and has not even entered in a playoff game yet.
Yeah.
maybe there's something more going on there.
There very well could
gotta
be, but we don't know. All right.
There's got to be.
But you look at what the youth have done in this series and what they've done, say, in the last 2 years. Give the guys opportunity. If he's healthy, put him in. That's all I can say.
Kotkaniemi scores 4 goals last year. Suzuki leads the team in scoring last year. The only reason they built the team the way they did and didn't run out and get a center in the offseason was because of the young centers that they had playing last year. So Evans played a strong playoff series last year.
Yep.
They come into this year and they're like, all right, youth, we want to play the vets. Although, I mean, they're changing. The youth is getting Caulfield and Suzuki had tons of ice time the last few games. So
Now, granted, Kotkaniemi through the season had a hard time. He had a difficult time through the season.
He did.
But now in the playoffs, after missing the first game, in 5 games, he's got 3 goals, including tonight's overtime winner to take it to game 7. The kid played clutch. He scored the goal. He's got 7 goals in 15 playoff games total. That's nearly a goal every other game in the playoffs. His goal per game rate in the regular season is about 0.18. Now it's about 0.45, 0.48.
he has more career playoff goals than Thomas Tatar.
See? And he is the clutchest playoff performer ever.
And Tatar has 37 playoff games.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
And how many playoff goals does Brady Tkachuk have? Just checking. Draft
Zadina.
bust.
Zadina.
Filling nets. Woo.
I love the Tkachuk narrative because at the draft, everybody wanted Zadina. Everyone wanted Zadina.
Before the draft.
Because I remember saying, I wanted Tkachuk. Remember? I said, I want Tkachuk, but they're going to draft Kotkaniemi, right? I already knew this.
Yep. I wrote
Everyone
an article.
else, including the one lady, and everyone we seen at that draft was like, oh, Zadina. Zadina's the guy. He's the high-flying forward. That's who we want. And Blaine, you and I were saying, we seen him in Halifax. He got the...
He's missing stuff.
He's missing
so
stuff.
for, what was that, about 5 months before the draft, I had written an article on Brady Tkachuk about how he is my pick. I think the Canadians should take him, blah, 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 blah. Then I got crapped on because it's supposed to be Zadina because Zadina is the best. He's the greatest. What do you know, Blaine? You're an idiot.
It's not wrong.
I didn't say that, did I?
From time to time.
Okay.
Not wrong. They weren't
But
wrong.
that's the thing.
But
That draft year, the vast majority of people talking about that draft wanted Zadina.
Yeah.
But now, conveniently, it's Tkachuk. Because Tkachuk got himself a couple of decent seasons on a really shitty hockey team.
And Zadina played in the minors his first season, and then it's not playing too bad for Detroit right now. Not playing great, but not playing too bad.
But if Zadina comes back next year and scores 30 goals, they'll turn around and say, well, we should have picked Zadina. It's a moving target. The bottom line is they picked Kotkaniemi, who is the top center. And if you're going to compare two players from that draft, you go to Barrett Hayton.
Yep. I totally
Fifth.
agree.
He was picked 5th by Arizona. Centers develop differently than wingers, especially when you're playing on teams that are expected to do a little bit more versus teams that are expected to do much less. So I'm sorry, but the kid is built for the playoffs. He's a big-bodied center, and he shows up in the playoffs. You want that.
Tatar gets you there, and Kotkaniemi gets you through.
Yes. He is a player that will win you games in the playoffs. He did that for Finland in international play. He's doing it for Montreal now. Not just because he scored an overtime goal tonight, but because he scores goals through the playoffs, playing a physical style. He is a power center come playoff time. You can't keep that pace up through a regular season. So he's going to have peaks and valleys, but come playoff time, the kid shows up. You know, he's 6'2" growing into his frame. He's going to be, I guess by the time he's 23, probably closer to 6'2.5" to 6'3", playing at about a 215 to 220. That's a big kid. So why not hand the team over to these guys? Suzuki scored the overtime the last one, Kotkaniemi on this one. Caulfield was dangerous every time he touches the puck the entire time he's been in the series.
This is an interesting stat I just read. That goal by number 15 was scored at 15:15. It was the 15th shot of the overtime period.
It was meant to be.
Treg Wilson with his deep stats. That was Sports Mom that put that.
That is some deep analytics.
I read Sports Mom, who follows me on Twitter. She put that out, so I'm not taking the credit for her tweet. I'm just reading it. I don't want her, I don't want everyone shitting on me because someone thought I took credit for someone else's tweet. So.
I'd like to point out that we had an inside man at the game. Brian Wiley. He was at the game with his son. They had a blast. Some people kind of chirped him a little bit because his son is a Toronto fan. Come on, that's his kid, guys. Let's ease up.
Kids should be able to root for whoever he wants to root for.
Exactly.
At least he wasn't kicked out for wearing a Toronto jersey.
Unlike Tampa Bay. And there was a good contingent of Leaf fans in there. The only thing I could say about the Leaf fans that were at the game was I didn't appreciate the yelling of "Go Leafs Go" during the national anthem.
Yeah, that was a bit of a dick move.
Yeah.
But that's one or two drunken idiots, and I'm not going to paint an entire fan base over two morons.
Yeah, and you can tell it was the same guy or same person, same people the whole time, right? So during the anthem, shut the fuck up. That's all I can say.
Yeah, don't paint everyone with the same
deep.
brush. Yeah,
the passion runs deep in these two fan bases.
Yeah,
and this rivalry is strong.
You can wait till the last line of "O Canada," and then we all know as hockey fans that they write in crowd noise at the end.
Yeah.
Right. Other than that, keep your mouth shut.
So I'm not going to paint an entire fan base with a brush of two morons or three morons. Just like Leaf fans who are hate following us now shouldn't paint all Habs fans because of us three morons. Although I'd like to thank them for listening. And remember, use the code Unfiltered20 if you're going to be buying anything from BuiltBar.com, anything from East Coast Lifestyle. At Built Bar, you'll save 10%. East Coast Lifestyle, you save 20%. And now, our newest sponsor, SeatGiant.ca. You use the code Unfiltered20, you save 35% off your fees when you buy tickets. Show us, Leaf fans. Show us how much you hate us by using our codes to save you money.
Yeah, so you got to think,
dirty rats.
If someone would have bought tickets to this Canadiens game at like $9,000, and you take 35% off those fees, you're saving some money.
Yeah, it's now under $9,000.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
You're down closer to about 7.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, I don't think we're down that far.
35% of 9.
It's not 9 though.
It's not 9. And I'm not saying that we would profit from this, but we're here to help you.
That's right.
So use the code unfiltered20 when you're ever at seatgiant.ca, builtbar.com, or East Coast Lifestyle and save yourself some money.
Wait, you guys are getting paid?
Yeah.
When did this start?
Well, you get paid in shirts from Baby Gap.
I got an autographed book from Terry Ryan. That's all I've gotten out of this podcast.
Did he put the what I asked him to inscribe in there?
I don't remember. To be honest
Treg,
with you.
buy clothes that fit. Love, Terry.
No, I didn't.
No?
Put that in. This did fit. This used to fit. Now COVID made me fat, so I don't fit no more.
You could have just said it's all the gym selfies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say to one guy, I was gonna say, this is what happens when you actually know where your gym is. But I don't know. He said my son was my son's shirt, so I just asked him why he was worried about what clothes my kids wear. So
All right,
What?
so we're at about we're rambling on. We're at about 30 minutes for this show after post game. The Canadians have forced a game 7, something that Leaf fans sure as heck didn't expect. They thought that the Leafs are going to walk away with this series, especially when they were up 3-1. So this
Yeah.
has bought us 2 more days of peace and quiet on social media.
Oh, Chris Ferreira, if you're out there. Yeah, I haven't heard much from you lately. I'm just curious if you're all right. I just want to know if you're all right. That's all. I
I
just
think
want to know if
Chris
you're all right, buddy.
Chris shut down his social media.
Just want to know if you're okay. We still get that bet going on. If I win, you can give it to charity. I don't want it. And if you win, I will give it to you or wherever you want it to go.
Speaking of which, the Montreal Canadiens have just forced Habs Unfiltered to donate another $25 to their Montreal Canadiens Children's Charity. It's painful. It hurts to hand over $75 now. It would really suck if the Montreal Canadiens forced us to pay $100 after Monday. I would really hate that.
That's $33 each.
Well, that's all that money is from Leaf fans who are using our promo codes.
So thank you for that.
So thank you. The children, thank you guys. We don't make much money on this show, but what we do make, we hand over to charity.
Usually Blaine's beer fund, but this time we're actually going to hand it over to charity.
Yeah. When you get pay raises at work, you can afford beer on the side.
Anyway, back to the game. It's getting late.
Yeah. So what a shitty overtime that was. Like that was terrible.
Horrible.
Yeah. I don't know. I my heart the whole time, I was just dying, and I'm really happy that they ended it like they did. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry to everyone in my neighborhood that heard those yells. Nobody was murdered. I swear to God, it was just me.
Oh, yeah, that overtime. I mean, Montreal shot 13-2, I believe, in overtime.
Yeah, 52.
Wasn't even close. Toronto dominated that overtime. I mean, I think I DM'd you guys saying it's been 10 minutes and Montreal doesn't even have a shot.
Yeah.
But Carey Price held us in. Played an excellent game. Matter of fact, he had a .952 save percentage in tonight's game.
Trash. What a piece of trash.
So
terrible. Fucking
and
trade him now.
we gave a lot of props to Campbell early in the game, but you know what? Carey Price came up with some big saves. And if it wasn't for Jeff Petrie, he probably would have had the shutout. But
That's true.
Petrie
Yeah.
wanted to make it interesting, I guess. Can't score on Leafs net, so he said, might as well tip stuff in on this net. He was doing the Sherratt from last year.
Yeah.
Doing the Sherratt in the playoffs last year, everything was going in off him in the Philadelphia series. And I'm not blaming Petrie. The second one literally went off the toe of his skate. And, you know, the defender's going to do what he can do to whatever. But Carey Price, man, I don't care what anyone says. I just had a conversation with someone. She said, Price is all you have. You're not going to make it all the Habs have. You're not going to make it right. I was like, and?
He's part of the team.
Yeah, I'll ride Carey Price right to the Stanley Cup if that's
the way I see it. You know, like a lot of people say that about Price. When he gets on, then you know he's the only reason why. He's the only reason why.
I
you know
don't
what?
care.
He's on the team.
Yeah.
Right? Who cares? It doesn't matter. It's the same thing as all the other people that say, well, look at, look at Kucherov or look at Matthews or look at McDavid or look at any of these.
Oh.
These are all high paid players as well. Who gives a shit? Montreal's got theirs. They got their star. It's not a guy that's going to put the puck in the net, but he's sure as hell going to stop it.
Edmonton Star didn't show up and they got swept. Toronto Star isn't showing up and they're going to a game 7 against a team people felt they should have beat in 5
in
games.
four or five.
Yeah,
games.
4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
So, hell, if those stars showed up, Edmonton and Toronto are playing themselves next week. Playing each other next week.
That's Sportsnet's job.
That's right. And not a word out of Sportsnet about Carey Price. I mean, Carey Price
Never even
haters,
mentioned
where
him.
the hell
He was-
are you guys?
He was the second star of the game tonight.
Yeah.
Should have been the first star. If I was picking stars, he would have been the first star.
Well, the
But,
overtime winner always gets the first star.
Yeah, I know. But Sportsnet never even mentioned. They went on about how well Campbell was keeping big saves by Campbell to keep Toronto in the game. Now that they're tied, and nothing about Carey Price and how he literally kept Montreal in the game in overtime. Although I will say there wasn't a lot of traffic in front of him in overtime, and a lot of the Toronto shots weren't really.
He had a very active glove tonight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very active glove.
He made that really nice glove save off a deflection early in the
Yeah.
game.
Yes. Yeah.
He was tracking the puck extremely well. Like you said, he had over a 950 save percentage tonight. And for everyone that was saying Carey Price is done, well, he's not.
No, we
What-
got to
what
put
is
him
he?
on LITR for the regular season, like Tampa does with Stamkos and Kucherov, and then just put him into the playoffs.
That'd be fine.
I'd be
That'd be
okay with
fine.
that.
Yeah.
10.5 million you can play with until the playoffs come, and then you have all these star power in the playoffs with Carey Price.
Yeah. And the cap don't count in the playoffs.
That's what I
That's
mean.
right.
Yeah.
All right. So the Canadians have forced a game 7. They have won back-to-back overtime games, and we are going to do another post-game show or our regularly scheduled show come Tuesday. In that episode, we are going to have Brian Wiley, who was at the game tonight. So he's going to give us a little bit of a lowdown on the atmosphere at the game, the atmosphere leading up to the game, everything that was outside, what it was like inside, and judging by some of the DMs. And he said, I was going to post some videos, but you couldn't hear me scream because I lost my voice after the second.
It sounded pretty loud in there. Even though there was only 2,500 people, it sounded like it was almost a full house. It was very loud. It was very until the Leafs tied it, but it got quiet. But that goal, it was deafening in there. From what I heard on my television, when Kotkaniemi scored that goal,
Ridiculously loud for such a small group. This is exactly what I was hoping would happen for the Canadians, to force a game, to have the fans in, and then to watch them do so well for most of the game, and then to have such an exciting finish. You couldn't have asked for a better script for the fans in that building. To have waited so long for a game in person, with the way the vaccination rates are going across Canada now, it's looking like possibly Christmas time, and then everything's going to return to normal. So we'll be able to travel again. We'll be able to cross provincial borders without military exemptions. We'll be able to go back to normal. And this was a little taste of that.
I
So
won't have to hide my face in public anymore.
Yeah,
Sorry, public. I'm no Matt Smith.
true.
But
But the good news is you'll be posted to Montreal, and then we're going to just come stay at your house.
Yeah, I'll be posted. That's not till next July though. So
Yeah.
I might be deployed, but we'll see.
coming
Hey.
Montreal, coming McLean's Pub. I'm coming. I want my own seat.
I owe Jimmy Murphy a couple of shots,
Yeah.
and I promised Shane over at McLean's Pub that I was going to buy a couple buckets of Labatt 50.
I told Shane I was just going to get those big draft
Oh, the big
Oh, yeah.
towers.
Big
Yeah.
towers. Yeah.
Well,
And,
that's what we're starting with.
And
So,
John Lou and Brian Mudrick want to go out after a game for a pint.
Who doesn't want to hang out with a bunch of sailors?
Yeah,
And
then we can go to that place we went last time we went out and like get poutine at like 4:00 in the morning.
Chez Paris?
Whatever it was. Yeah, it was really good. That's all I remember.
I don't know what it was.
I
All I
don't
know
know.
is it had poutine.
The poutine was great, and the dancers were so entertaining.
There's a lot of rum that night. Let's just say that.
I'm gonna have
All right,
to start,
so
I'm gonna have to
we're
start
rambling
drinking
now.
again.
We're rambling now. We should end the show here. I want to thank everybody for listening. The Canadians are going to Game 7. And remember, if you were talking about it, so are we.